I talk privately with many members of Congress. They want to do what we're talking about. The bureaucracy and the staffers and the administrative state blocks them. I mean, Congressman Burleson said that on the record, that there were things that he wanted to move through, that there were unelected bureaucrats who blocked it. And he's a member of Congress. So this is where you have an upside down system where the people's representatives get overrun by bureaucrats that are in the administrative end of things, which is sort of astonishing. Most people wouldn't believe it, but I talk to members of Congress and senators all the time, and this is routinely happens because these bad actors have embedded non-official cover, NOCs, on the staff of key committees and members of Congress to block and change things all the time. The system it's like a metastatic cancer where the whole system is riddled with these sort of operatives. And that's what happens. It is a metastatic cancer that's gotten out of control. And I think that most people don't realize that a member of Congress by himself or herself can only do so much. But I'm hoping still that they can continue on and make some progress. Well, let's pivot to
and call you eventually.
Oh, I don't.
Can I just say something for 30 seconds? I find I am not going to. This is not a self-pat, but I'm sorry, folks. I find it very ironic. You have 5 people testifying yesterday with no documents, very little experience, and you have 2 people right now on the camera. Myself and Dr. Greer, who one of our main tenets is that we have documents, we have the FOIAs, we have leaked information that is firsthand knowledge. You're talking about 2 men right now that could go to Congress with inches thick dossiers, and I agree with, and I hear your frustration, by the way, as your friend. I hear your frustration, the tetrabyte plus of a dossier that you have in my inches thick dossier of code names and facilities and whistleblower names, and we're on the sideline, and these people are called with stories. So I just want to say I understand your frustration. I feel it too, and it's it's criminal. So borderline, more metaphorically criminal. So I just wanted to say that.
The more things change, the more they stay.
You got it, man.
If you were to press the rewind button to the fake hearings of the 60s and 70s, it wouldn't be any different than now.
Right.
It's like, but nobody knows this history. This is the other problem. There's a paucity of institutional memory in the Congress and in the public and in the media of the way this game has been played all the way from the 50s till now.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty much the same playbook, but nobody knows the prior operational, manual, and they're just making the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again. And it's if it wasn't tragic and so dangerous for our future, it'd be comical because there's no real great mystery to how to set this up. But every panel and every hearing that's ever happened on this subject has ended up being diverted into this, there's nothing here to see, or gee, we don't know. Yeah, we do know. And one of the things the night before, I was talking to some people who were going to be at the hearing, and they said, about the phenomenon. I said, which phenomenon? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, UAP is a wastebasket term like UFO. There are 3 things going on. There's extraterrestrial, there's interdimensional, separate, and there's man-made, which is the dominant thing that people are seeing now, or the man-made things, objects. And the ones from other dimensional, extra-dimensional, originate in another dimensional, but not another star system. An extraterrestrial, interstellar system traverses other dimensions to get from there to here, but originates from another planet and star system, but is not based in another dimension. Now, most people, these 3 major categories that all the different UFO phenomenon fall into, they're not even asking the question, what part of this is this from? Because they don't even know.
Right.
And I liken it to a doctor who is, someone comes in, I'm an emergency guy with chest pain, and you say, oh, it's a heart attack. and you give them the TPA and dissolve the clot. Well, maybe it was a dissecting thoracic aneurysm, and you give that and they're dead in 5 minutes.
Right.
So you have a bunch of unskilled physicians up there who don't even know that there are 3 major categories of phenomena, plural, going on, all being labeled the same thing. So this is like day 1 of kindergarten. This is like learning your alphabet and how to add 1 and 1 is 2. But be honest with you, the UFO subculture and the people in there at these committees, they don't even know this, what I just said. I would say that 99% of everyone in the UFO subculture don't know what I just said. And
do you remember the day that you were schooling me about that?
Yeah.
This guy, Dr. Greer, has an extreme amount of patience, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you. But you're right. You have to.
It's a paradigm.
Right.
It blows people's minds.
You have to know what you're dealing with categorically and on every level. I could not agree more.
But there's no critical. Here's the problem. Right now, anything that goes bump in the night that's like something out of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
The Netflix movie, like the Montauk experiments that were from other dimensions. Those weren't extraterrestrials, but they're real and they're creepy. But everyone would call it an alien, but it's not. Okay, so this is not helpful if you're trying to be scientific and specific and have discernment. But this is now a very, very, I think, politically incorrect to have any discernment or information or knowledge about anything. And as Patrick Daniel Monia, the senior senator from New York, said, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but not their own set of facts.
What is your fact line again? Don't bother me.
Can you say that again? Nobody's willing to look at the facts. And so I just
don't bother me with facts.
Don't make it my fact. My opinion's made up. I think this is another big problem. But look, all we can do is continue to advise. Luckily, you will notice in the hearing, and we can put a link to this, Raven, in this show. We had presented to the committee and to Congressman Burleson about a 10-page report for the record, and he held it up, and it was submitted, and Luna accepted it. And it actually has some of these whistleblowers named and some are codenamed in there. And then it's sort of a cover letter from me that explains all of this. But so that's in the congressional record and everybody can see it. I think even before they had the hearing, something like 12 or 13,000 people had downloaded it and hundreds of thousands had viewed it. But I think this is, we'll just continue to submit this sort of information and then hope for the best and say a prayer. It's a Hail Mary pass at this point.
Dr. Greer, I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I do think the big action isn't going to happen necessarily there. The big action is happening at the executive branch level and law enforcement. And I can't go too much into that, but I will tell you that it's very big progress and very promising, extremely promising. So let's get to your case. I mean, once you start at the beginning of this strange case, just the facts, outline it, when it started.
First time I'm ever going to do that, just fact-based, hold the hyperbole. Your viewers don't deserve that. I know for a fact that this broadcast between yourself and I have a lot of eyes on it, and I understand that, and I'm very cognizant of that. And I just want to tell people the footage which you are about to witness is potentially jaw-dropping if you've never seen it before. This is not a CGI alien interview that floated around 5 years ago. This is something very old, very non-CGI, and I just want everyone to know. It's very important.
Let's just go through the facts. I want you to summarize.
I just wanted to just preface this is that I went at this as a true scientific investigator, thinking I was going to prove it was a hoax. And I'm 6 years, $27,000 later, and I cannot prove this is a hoax. It's actually the needle is buried the other way. On that note, the alien interview. We think that it started in 1997 with this mockumentary that was on TV, and it didn't. In 1986, former CIA pilot John Lear goes on George Knapp's television news program, and talks about that a videotape of an extraterrestrial out at S4 south of Area 51 has been garnered, and it's going to be exposed to the public. That's in 1986. 1988, allegedly, people like Bill Moore, some journalists, allegedly were going to be flown to Washington, D.C. to view this alien interview tape on behalf of the United States government. The stock market crashed. This would have been in 87. The stock market crashed, and that meeting, that incredible meeting, was canceled. In 1989, Bob Lazar steps forward, talks about S4, a facility that John Lear was talking about. So there's a repetitive theme here that there is this super secret facility south of Area 51, and people don't even know what Area 51 is yet. I find that oddly informative. In 1991, from our investigation, on April 22nd, at 3:15 in the afternoon, a interstellar haploid other gray alien, tan in color, round eyes, was brought into the interrogation suite at what we now know under the building in the facility S2 Alpha. We have been told there is no S4 with hangars in the mountains, so on and so forth. That the AHC, the Alien Housing Center, is bizarre and crazy as that sounds, resides under a building south of Area 51 called S2 Alpha. In the homage of my friend Dr. Greer, we have the FOIA of that facility being built in the early 60s. Very important. Next to that facility is the American Pathology Institute, which we have also found that many of these alleged retention facilities for living extraterrestrials, allegedly, ladies and gentlemen, also have a company next door adjacent to some sort of bio-research pathological facility. I find that, again, oddly coincidental. This film, unbeknownst to the DIA, which runs the extraterrestrial retention and an interrogation program under Project Aquarius. Dr. Greer is very familiar with the Defense Intelligence Agency. This film was stolen because a very small secret cabal of men, a biologist, 2 sentries, and we think under the tacit wink of the project leader, a Major Thomas Mack, who was with the Air Force Advisory Scientific Committee. He was the project leader of Project Aquarius, where this alien retention and facility was housed. And Project Aquarius was all things extraterrestrial contact with Homo sapiens sapiens. Under that, we had Project Looking Glass, Galileo, and on and on. This film of this being, which Raven will show, was then leaked and smuggled off of Area 51.
Go back. What was the date of the interview and the film, and when it was actually created? Yeah,
this film you're about to see was created. It was very late in the series with this being, late into the telepathic thought projection interviews with this being. It came to the facility in 1989. This is April 22nd, 1991 at 3:15 in the afternoon, created for the questions submitted for the Department of Naval Intelligence, which officially to this day doesn't exist. I am so proud to say that we have proved beyond a doubt the Department of Naval Intelligence exists and does prove a tenet of Bob Lazar's story. This film was snuck off the base. It was captured, held for 5 years. And in 1996.
So let's go back. Wait.
Go ahead. Sure.
I'm very much forensic.
Okay.
I'm a doctor. Who took it off the base, and what's the provenance of the film? Provenance meaning the authenticity of its chain of custody, et cetera.
Right. The United States, this is jumping forward a little bit, but we got a document that talked about the provenance, the chain of events, how the theft occurred. The theft occurred almost movie-esque like. It was actually let out of S2 Alpha, because you are weighed in the nude, and when you come in, you are weighed in the nude. When you come out, nothing is getting out of this facility. I think everyone would probably understand that. One of the cabal members, the disgruntled employees, was the United States Air Force cameraman, who we have never known. He is the hero in all of this. He took a 3-minute snippet of this film, and that is what he brought to Las Vegas and took it off base he first put it into a burn bag in a GSA approved vault, held it for 3 days, and then he snuck that burn bag in his gym bag off of the base of Area 51. We have talked with 7 people that have been at Area 51 in the 90s. They've all said the same narrative. Times it was draconian, times the outlying security was lax. Sometimes the guards checked your purse, sometimes they didn't check your purse or your briefcase. I found that striking, and that's how this 3-minute segment of this film left the base. It was brought to Las Vegas. Go ahead.
The film VHS, or was it actually?
Great question. We have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, 3 forensic and film video experts all say that this film was originally on 16 millimeter film, not VHS, ladies and gentlemen. And we have found out that in 1991, the United States government, Audio Visualization Department of the United States government, and EG&G, which did the super secret filming for the United States government. Remember EG&G, because this is where the whistleblower comes in, that they were still using 16 millimeter film. So that's very, very important to remember that this completely jives and completely walks in lockstep with what the government was using in 1991. And if this was a hoax, started in 1996, it was very, very hard for anyone to find any film stock footage that was 16 millimeter to use in, let's say, a mockumentary. Dr. Greer, we move forward to 1996. 1996 in the spring, an alleged former government employee dressed in a 3-piece suit, wearing a ponytail, a counterculture type person, highly educated, starts making the rounds in Hollywood to sell this 3-minute tape. This is coming on the heels of the alien interview. He gets a meeting with Fox, Jamie Darnell, and their unscripted television department. This is bizarre. They cannot guarantee his safety. They cannot guarantee his anonymity. They think that he's a little weird, that he's a pain in the, I will refrain from swearing. And they basically shoo him out of the Fox studio lot. This former government employee, allegedly, walks across the street. He gets Variety magazine because his mission is to sell this and put this on TV and expose this to the world. He sees a video production company. This is very important. A second-tier video production company that is putting out a Rodney Dangerfield comedic golf video. And he thinks to himself, well, if Fox is not going to help me, maybe somebody lower down the food chain, and I would agree with this, would help me and would put this out. He calls, he talks to the CEO, Tom Coleman, who I've been in contact with for 6 years. 6 years. They bring him in. They pop in this VHS tape. They see this bizarre alien being interviewed, looking, very bizarrely into the camera. The footage is a blue hue, which I gave to Raven. This is one of the big tenets of the skeptics. It's dark and it must be a puppet. The original VHS had a blue hue, clearly showing the thorax and the arms and the shoulders, and of course the neck and the head. It looks like a closed circuit television camera. This is how it originally came to Rocket Pictures, not the darkened film. Rocket Pictures production did that for theatrical effect. They find the same thing that Fox does. This Victor is weird. He won't yet give his real name. He doesn't drive. They make an agreement for payment. We think $25,000 to $30,000 because it's the follow the money in this. How we prove there is not the amount of money garnered to warrant doing something like this. It just costs too much. And Victor produces a tattered Social Security card with the name, and I jumped forward, but this is why I came on, with a tattered Social Security card named Stanton John Willett with a 262 prefix, which means he was originally born in Florida. And the director was defiant. The first name was Stanton, not John, because we found a John Stanton Willett. He leaves. He comes back, and they do a unrehearsed, very important, unrehearsed hour and a half on Coast to Coast Art Bell, where Victor is taking unrehearsed questions so eloquently that people are saying, this guy sounds like a project manager of a government program. This guy sounds like my boss at Raytheon. This guy is scientific in nature. 2 months later, the documentary comes out on the UPN network, not Fox, on a program called Strange Universe. And they paid Rocket Pictures for this 1 hour documentary. So in Reicher Entertainment, which had Strange Universe, was on the ropes financially. Again, follow the money. In my case, the lack of the money. We see this video, Doctor. It's bizarre. It's a tan alien, not gray. Why would you hoax a video with a tan alien and not have a typical gray? It has round eyes. The skin is moving and oscillating around the ocular cavity and around the eyes. The mouth is opening and closing seamlessly once you zoom into the mouth, unlike any animatronic being that we've ever seen up to this point. Black foam is coming out of its mouth as discharge. Medics come in. Victor tells us that the being had microbes form colonies in its respiratory system. And this is why it was having some sort of a respiratory attack. And the thrust of my first investigation, this green, bizarre, alleged physiological monitor is next to the being with the blip, the physiological blip going up and down. It is moving off the screen bottom. It is not holding onto the bottom like a regular EKG or any kind of physiological monitor that we see. Very bizarre, green in nature, and it seems to be coinciding more erratic with the beings coughing. And EMT and doctors that we showed this to were perplexed and said, all of them, and Jaime Maussan showed us the 13 cardiothoracic surgeons and cardiovascular surgeons who all said, this being is having some sort of cardiovascular event, and that blip is seemingly to be in sync with the coughs of this being. A very bizarre. The video ends. Victor says, do what you want with the film, investigate me. I'm coming out because I don't believe that the government should hold this knowledge against the American people, that the government people running this program are very average intellectually at the top. Victor comes across as very bitter, very angry, and highly intelligent. And he uses 2 words, and I could not have a person in front of me to talk to this about. He says, and this is what struck me in 97, have no idea about ufology. He said the being starts to medically flag. And I remember this on my couch watching it and going, that is an odd term. I have never heard of that term. I know Hollywood. I know screenwriting, writers. I don't think a 20-something-year-old writer could think of the word medically flag or the term something that I've never heard before. I've heard flagging, of course. And then he says the being was in the interview suite. He doesn't say room. He doesn't say in the interview level, calls it a suite, which is a much more comfortable accommodation. For some reason, those 2 words struck me. Months later, I'm having a regular checkup. My physician at the time in 97 was a doctor in Korea. And I said, Dr. Z, what is medically flagging? Dr. Greer, he reeled back to me. He goes, where did you hear that from? And I said it was in a documentary, but they said it's a hoax and this whistleblower's a hoax. And he goes, I haven't heard that since Korea. That's a medical terminology that was used a lot in the government and in my time in Korea. I said, would a 20-something-year-old writer know that terminology? This is before Wikipedia or the Urban Dictionary. And my doctor's reaction to that terminology simply made me say, I don't know when. But something is weird with this video. The doctors are not in pressurized suits to really hype up the hoax. There are two military army officers in the foreground, only showing their shoulders. Why would you dress them in army attire and not show their whole body? The alien is tan. What is going on with this film? And I just knew in the back of my mind, I'll pause here, that eventually one day I would research to find out what the truth is. Not if it's real, but what the truth is.
Mm-hmm. So what is the state of the research at this point about this film?
Before Jon Stewart hits it in 2019, let me tell you one more very quick information. Victor comes back.
Run out of time soon.
Okay, okay. So let's jump first. Okay, I researched the monitor. Hewlett Packard, people doing their PhD in physiological monitors have no idea what that monitor is. Remember, a second-tier production company. Whitley Strieber comes forward in 2016 and says, I think this film, My Alien Interview, is real. I saw that green blip in the corner of my eye as I was writing the book Communion. I think it's a way that extraterrestrials communicate with human beings. I never told anybody. So how did this second-tier video production company know to put that bizarre green blip in its video? Folks, you can't get around that. Okay, we had the film analyzed, 16 millimeter from Bill Mumms, who National Geographic's hired for their video documentation for a Bigfoot film. Don't laugh, this is National Geographic. Bill Mumms said, there's a head scratcher. That alien does not have any indents or creases in its armpits. Every foam latex doll, animatronic puppet has creases from the 50s until 2 hours ago. And I don't know how a second-tier production company could reinvent foam latex dolls. We got the proof that it's not S4, Bob Lazar's S4, that it's S2 Alpha. We have proved that the Department of Naval Intelligence is real. An aviator told us he was recruited by the DNI. We found the Department of Naval Intelligence, not office, department, in a conference brochure in Canada with a Major Pinzel representing the Department of Naval Intelligence and a CIA director level retired personnel told me in an offhanded conversation, yes, the DNI is real. It's an agency buried inside the Department of Navy. How did Bob Lazar know that? And more importantly, why would this video production company have the guts to put a unknown hoaxed 3-letter acronym of a department that doesn't exist on the bottom of the film, and that owner's signature on the bottom of the film? The DNI 27 cost like $3,000 back then. When you have no money, I don't think a video production company would spend the money to emblazon a DNI and the number 27, which is, in my opinion, the bombshell. We find out that the code to get into this facility, the alien retention and interrogation facility, the code is Yankee white, Yankee black. Dr. Greer, do you know what the numerical number of that code is? Meaning, if you don't have this level of above top secret clearance, you cannot get into this program and see or watch any documentation of this program. That level number is number 27. I ask your viewers, how could a cheesy video production company know that 30 years later, that the actual numerical number, the security number that was for Yankee White, which means contact with the president, to see this retention and interrogation interview program, is the number 27. I just don't believe that is absolutely even remotely possible. Other queer things have happened, Doctor, in the past 5 years. We have a guy that does reverse speech on CIA agents, presidents, astronauts. He says, I think every whistleblower coming forward in ufology is full of it. But there's one guy I believe, because of his reverse speech, whether you believe in this science or not. And he said, do you know the whistleblower Victor? I believe that man is telling the truth. His reverse speech said, they are in my head in Zeta Reticuli, allegedly the star system where this extraterrestrial, this haploid, it was only carried one sexual chromosome, allegedly came from. This reverse speech said the only person in ufology, I think, telling the truth is the whistleblower viewer, is Victor. We've had 2 sets of remote viewing groups and blind studies who all took on this challenge, not knowing what they were seeing. They were describing a tan being, a being in distress, a being that was terrified, which I thought was phenomenal. He was in a no man's land, which is Papoose Lake. It's a nuclear fallout area.
Yep.
And I find that remarkable. I find that absolutely 2 groups, blind study, both said the same thing, making Richard Dolan come forward publicly to say, I thought Jon Stewart was crazy. This film has got to be real. Let me lastly say one more thing, as I bypassed a lot of the research, but that's fine. And that is this. We finally found Stanton John Willett. He is on an EG&G entry log for Area 51. I am proud to say that I am, to this, under my opinion, the only person to bring out a document that ever was sitting at Area 51. The entry log of Stanton John Willett. He was a real person. He could have gotten into Area 51 with a legal government assumed name. So we do realize that could be possible.
Right.
In the entry log from the time frame, it was from 88 to 93. He was working for EG&G. And I have the paper. He was there at Area 51, which is a bona fide that he was telling the director of this documentary the truth, that his name was Stanton John Willett. We have spent thousands of dollars looking for him. He has been bleached. He has been sheep dipped, but we do know his last location for the 08 documentary.
What those words mean. You need to say what bleached and sheep dipped.
Okay, bleached and sheep dipped is an intelligence jargon, an intelligence phrase, meaning they wipe out any bit of your biography that would lead anyone researching you back to the intelligence covert project that you were part of. Bleaching, sheep dip. These are 2 intelligence words. And we have had intelligence people tell us that without a doubt, Victor has been sheep dipped. We have the stenographer. Folks, please listen to me. The stenographer a month ago came forward to me who transcribed the note cards from military people or telepaths communicating thought projection with these beings. She said my particular being was afraid. This was his first mission. He was confused. It was a hard landing. He was not the leader of the group. It was his fault. He is afraid. He is sick. He is dying. He is alone. And he wonders where the rest of the crew of that ship is. And we have also interviewed 2 of the widows of the telepath. I want to say the jaw-dropping, when Raven shows the footage, you're going to see 2 medics come in. The doctor on the being's right shoulder to our left is named Dr. Wilford Webb Wilson. We have spoken to his widow. She has identified that is her husband, an U.S. Air Force military doctor. She has identified that is her husband on the being's right. She said he was super secretive. It almost cost their marriage because of how secretive he was. And she thanked me for solving, think about this, for solving a family secret. And she now understands why her husband, Webb Wilson, Dr. Webb Wilson, died in 2014 on the right of that being was so secretive. I just want to ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. How could we have an actual United States Air Force doctor identified by his wife in a alleged fake alien video? I'm sorry. I just don't find any of my information going at it like a hoax to jive. I gave up because I can't find anybody with credible information to tell me why particularly that video is a hoax. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is, but part of it is that, did you mention that someone actually obtained the original 16 millimeter film? Or where is that film? The
16 millimeter film its disposition right now is unknown. Okay. We have the original VHS tape from Victor with the blue hue. It's startling. It's closed circuit television-esque looking footage. You could tell this was taken off of some closed circuit camera, government facility, or copied off of 16 millimeter onto.
This is your classic. Let's talk about some big picture things here for a moment, while we still have a little time.
Sure.
first of all, EG&G is a prime contractor and has been since the 50s at least out in that area. That area is an old facility, so-called Area 51. It's a grid. The more important areas are Area 52, 3, out near the lake, and also Groom Lake and
Tonopah. Is Tonopah still active? I'm not sure.
And Pahut Mesa, Groom Lake. Those are the more critical areas. But we do know from current whistleblowers we're working with who are still alive that a number of these facilities do have living extraterrestrial biological entities that are being interrogated and tortured, and they're euphemistically called refugees, but they're ones that have survived the targeting and downing of extraterrestrial vehicles. Now, I have been at 2 black sites where the electromagnetic pulse and scalar weapons have been deployed to down these objects. About 2 years ago, actually this month, I was at these 2 places, and in fact, the operators out there said point blank that there were often ones that did not survive the downing, but when they do, they are captured and they are retained in these facilities, and that there are a number of them still living that need to be freed and liberated. This is something that has been kicked over to the law enforcement strike team people, tactical teams that I've been advising. At a certain point, that needs to happen because it's a atrocity what's going on.
Yes.
And don't forget, all the way back to the 40s with the events in New Mexico, we had an Army intelligence man surface before he died, who saw one of the last living ETs from the Roswell event, or somewhere in New Mexico. He's pretty sure it was Roswell, at Camp Perry here in Virginia, that was in a cage with wearing
boxer shorts, right? Right.
Yes. Yes, and
it's crazy.
And he said it was so sad, and that was in 1951. So we do know that this is the standard operating procedure of debriefing, torturing. Many of them don't survive.
Thank you for saying that.
But this is so all of that is not unusual, as bizarre as this whole story is.
Right.
And one thing I will say, so many times evidence that's good is handled in a way and then broadcast in tabloid media or in the UFO subculture in a way that then discredits it. In other words, the evidence in itself on its own would be okay, but it's handled in a way that would lead any rational scientist or political leader to conclude it was rubbish. So this is the as Lord Hill Norton, who is the 5-star admiral, the Sea Lord, who used to be head of the Ministry of Defense in Great Britain, who I met with years ago in the 90s. He said it's the rubbishing of the matter in the tabloids. He called it the rubbishing of the matter. So unfortunately, often what will happen is that some very good evidence, in a very unsophisticated way by people who obtain it, ends up getting handled in a way that discredits it, even if it's real. And that is what's happened with this and many other cases that I'm aware of. And I think this is one of the real problems with this subject. We do know that, for example, that kind of outlet versus 60 Minutes will cover something like this. Or the National Enquirer was set up by a PSYOP guy from the CIA. He was an MIT guy who was CIA Psychological Warfare Division, who set up the National Enquirer explicitly so that these sort of stories could get tracked into a tabloid, that even if they were true, of course, it was some false stuff, some real stuff, but the real stuff would be immediately neutralized by guilty by association, right?
Right.
And that's why this organization is very crafty at being sure that the most ridiculous stuff gets pushed to the front and the real stuff is suppressed or can only come out through a tabloid like the National Enquirer or something. Right. So this is a pattern. I'm trying to give people, here's one of the things that we all have to do. We have to start making these bigger assessments of how counterintelligence and disinformation works, because as disclosure, I think it's almost certain that it's all going to come out in the next 6 months to 2 years. But if it comes out the way that they're trying to spin it into this direction of a threat and all kinds of false information.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. The real information is going to get completely attached to the false information.
Yeah.
And the real information will then empower the false narrative. And this is exactly what we see going on now with these, the spin meisters and whatnot.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things people need to look at.